Welcome back to the Pistons Jack YouTube channel. On today's episode, we'll go through all the latest on the Dennis Schroder sign and trade and why we could potentially have a resolution in the next 24 hours. And we'll also touch on some Jaden Ivey stuff with the conversation surrounding him for next season. But let's get to it. All right, first things first, let's get straight into this Dennis Schroder trade. We've been talking about this three-team trade now for what feels like 3 or 4 days. And we do have some new updates to touch on and some information that leads us to believe there is likely, not certainly, but likely an outcome in the next 24 hours. Kyle Metz 23, shout out to Kyle, tweeted out earlier today that it is a little less than 28 hours before deals can be officially signed on July 6th. De facto deadline for the Pistons to expand the Schroder sign and trade is tomorrow at noon. So that's July 6th at 12 p.m. Eastern. The Kings could decide, however, to draw it out if they need to for Jonathan Kuminga, but most likely a resolution comes by tomorrow. So before I get to both some Kings information from a Kings reporter and then some information on the Kaminga piece, essentially, whilst there's no guarantees, as you can see here, the Pistons' deadline to expand the trade is tomorrow at noon. So that's when I believe we should get official word that they will be expanding the deal and making this a sign and trade. So I've got some more information here, but it ties in with the Kings angle on all of this. So Matt George, who is a Kings reporter, I believe hosts a Locked On Kings podcast and potentially does some stuff on the local networks covering the Kings, said, the latest on the Kings-Kaminga saga. I'm told the Kings are content with bringing their current roster into next season if the Warriors decide not to trade Kaminga. That includes Malik Monk and Devin Carter. The Valanciunas trade and Schroder signings are expected to go through as planned. So this sounds like that the Kings are due to the Warriors not wanting. So the Warriors essentially, they want, from what I've read, they want Keegan Murray to come back for Kaminga, which I'm on the Kings side. That's too much for to give up for a guy in Kaminga. Maybe Kaminga has a higher ceiling, but to date, Keegan Murray, I think, has shown he's the better, more reliable player. Obviously, the Kings don't want to part with their key young player, but the Warriors are not interested in Devin Carter, Dario Saric in 2 seconds. That's been reported by Matt George here, as well as Anthony Slater. So it seems like this three-team trade's kind of like come to a bit of a stalemate. So the outcomes here, if this deal falls through, we've spoken about the John Collins three-team trade on yesterday's video, so I won't go into that. Watch that for the info on that. But I checked in with Kyle, our salary cap guru, because I wanted to make sure if this deal falls through, one, can the Pistons still do the sign and trade with a straight swap for Malik Monk and Dennis Schroder? And they can. That's still very much on the table. And then the other thing I wanted to check in is if the Kings just do as what Matt says here and they just do the Valanciunas trade for Dario Saric and the Schroder sign and trade, they just signed Dennis Schroder to 3 years, $45 million. Can the Pistons still get that $14.3 million trade exception we've been talking about? Because while I know all the fans want a player back, I do as well, that trade exception, if they're unable to bring back a player, is still something that's very valuable. So Kyle and I basically discussed that in order for the Pistons to, if they don't bring back Malik Monk, but the Pistons still want that trade exception, they would have to send the Kings potentially a second-round pick to entice them to still go ahead with the sign and trade and give the Pistons that trade exception, $14.3 million it is roughly. So that's kind of the update with the Kings and Pistons. Obviously, the Warriors are holding all of this up. But they can technically still get Malik Monk for Schroder straight up. I've spoken about that. And then I've just spoken about how they can get that trade exception done if the Kings if they just want to sign Schroder and, potentially might not want to send out Monk or a player, as Matt says here. So let's move quickly now to the Warriors side of things and Kaminga side of things, because this is what's probably going to hold everything up if the Pistons are still interested in getting Malik Monk or the like. So, or if the Kings have an interest in getting Kaminga, this is what's going to hold everything up and continue to. So Evan Sardary here Well, the report's actually from Anthony Slater's article, but the tweet says here, Jonathan Kuminga plans to meet with interested teams next week in Las Vegas at Summer League if the Warriors don't sign him to a new deal. So this could, this doesn't mean a deal will be held up, but I think this pretty much cements that if the Kings are still intent on signing Kaminga, that we're probably not going to get an answer to this 3-team trade until Vegas Summer League, which I believe starts on July 10th, which is still 4 or 5 days away. So if there's a lot going on here, it's a little bit confusing for me, but essentially, if the Pistons still want to do this 3-team trade with the Warriors and Kings, we're probably not going to hear anything until July 10th at the earliest, maybe July 11th after Kuminga's met with other teams. If the Kings go, nah, we're not waiting for Kaminga anymore. We were interested, but this is taking on too long, and they pivot away from the Warriors. The Pistons very well tomorrow, we could see a deal done, or by the time you're watching this today, we could see a deal done at 12 to 5 p.m. noon, where the Pistons and Kings complete a sign and trade. They could also, if the Kings go, nah, we don't want to deal with Warriors anymore, this is where the Pistons can loop in the Jazz and make a 3-team trade for John Collins potentially, which we spoke about. So, in summary, if the Warriors are still involved in this 3-team trade, we're probably not going to hear anything for at least another 3 to 4 days. If they Kings pivot away from the Warriors and move on from Kaminga, then we could very well hear something in today or in the next day or two. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I hope that helps give everyone some insight on where things are at. Finally, to wrap up the show here, I just want to talk a little bit about Jaden Ivey and his return to the Pistons and how important I think it is. I think it's interesting. It used to be in my first year kind of covering the Pistons, which was I think Cade's rookie year. It was always Killian Hayes and Sadiq Bey were like the real divisive players. Then in year 2, it was still a bit of Killian when we had hope. And then for some reason, just over the past year and a half, it feels like Jaden Ivey has become like the most, he splits the fan base. And I don't really, I kind of understand it. I think Jaden has it kind of is Cade. I think Cade's on a tier of his own in terms of fan popularity. But then it feels like Jaden has a really big, strong tie to a portion of the fan base. And people, I think sometimes can get a little bit sensitive when there's criticisms about Jaden. But I think it's because Jaden, I think for the most part, everyone still sees him as having the second highest potential. He's definitely got the second highest scoring potential on the team, and he's an exciting player. If everything hits for Jaden, he's in my opinion, a 24-point game scorer and the second best option on a really, really good playoff team. So I understand why it's such a divisive thing, but I think just my thing for Jaden is I'm still very much interested in seeing Jaden and Cade next season. I can't wait for him to come back. I don't buy into any of the talk that the Pistons only got better because he left. The Pistons had just won their first 3 games in a row in 2 years. Just before he broke his leg, he won that game in Sacramento with the 4-point play. He hit the 3 to tie it up, and then a lot of people forget about the free throw to put them ahead. He was awesome in the Phoenix and Lakers games before that. When he went down, I think in his past 6 games, he was averaging 24 points, 60% from 3. Even in the game against the Magic, I think he had scored 20-something and had hit 5 threes. On the season, his 3-point shot improved dramatically. I think there's plenty of reason to believe he's a part of a winning Pistons team, and that it's just been unfortunate. Him and Cade have both had these leg injuries that have made them miss huge chunks of their first few seasons. Cade was out for all of Jaden's rookie season, so we didn't get that. And then the Monty Williams thing in Jaden's second year was disruptive for the first 30 games. And then Cade misses the end of last season. It's just that season was horrible and ruined a lot of stuff for development, I thought. And then this season, we finally feel like we're getting to see Jaden and Cade finally put it together. They start winning some games in the late December, and then Jaden goes out with a broken leg. So I just feel like we still have never gotten that full 60-game sample of them getting to play alongside one another. We've seen glimpses, and I understand those who probably think they can't work together, but I still am very much invested, and I think Jaden, after watching his teammates in the playoffs, is going to come back stronger and better than ever. Like, I think we saw his handle improve last year. Finishing at the rim still needs to go up a notch. But the way he was like getting into the paint, I'd never seen him like move like that before. And I think that was because of the improved handle and footwork. His 3 overall, like catch and shoot. I think even his pull-up numbers weren't bad on threes. That was exciting. I think one of the things I loved about Jaden's rookie season was his improvement in the mid-range as a shooter, and that kind of seems to have come out of his game. I'd like to see him get back to that in his 4th season. But yeah, I think barring like a trade for like a Devin Booker or someone of that magnitude, like I just want to see Ivy with Cade next year and see what they can do. Like maybe it doesn't work, but I believe it will. And I think some of these trades I see from fans, including Jaden, kind of discount how good I think he can be, but that's their opinion. But I'm still all in, and I think he could be very well that second. Like I still believe there's might be a 20% chance. It's not as high as maybe we thought when we drafted him, but I still think there's like a 20% chance he can be that second leading scorer alongside Cade on like a top 4 East team for like a 5-year stretch where they make the finals. Like I believe that. So really excited to see Jaden and see what he does this off season. And I'll be covering it and bring it all to you here, but can't wait to see him in the preseason. And I think he's a huge piece of what this team is going to be going forward. So that's going to do it for today's show, guys. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with some breaking news about the trade. We might even go live. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much for all the recent subscribers, the comments, everything. I love it. I'm trying to get back to as many people as possible, but I hope you're enjoying the coverage. And as always, we'll be back tomorrow. Go Pistons.